What's it actually like owning a 300,000 mile BMW? Well, today I'm about to show you. People love to say that BMWs are unreliable, but I completely disagree with that. I've had this car as a daily driver for 5 years and done over 100,000 miles in it, so I think I have a good enough idea on what it's actually like owning one and a few of the things that can go wrong along the way. And for anyone who finds it hard to believe, there we go then, over 300,000 miles and it's still going strong. Hopefully this video will help some of you out and show you a few of the things that you can expect if you wanted to get a car to this sort of mileage, some of the costs along the way, and what you need to try and do to get any car to high miles. If you're usually here for the Audi S4, then don't worry, it's not gone anywhere. I've ordered some bits for it, but I've got a couple errands I need to run on this, so I thought I'd take you along for the journey. If you haven't seen the Audi S4 yet and you want to take a look, the link's up there. So this car's well overdue a service. I'm going to start off by giving it a service, and we've got a noise coming from the aux bar area, so we're going to hopefully try and fix that today, and then later on we'll move on to a few of the things that I've done to it in my ownership, have got some mileage out of a car, and some of the things it's cost me along the way. When this car's cold, it will make a squealing and a ticking noise from somewhere around this area here. When it's warmed up though, it won't do it. Okay, so let's get into it. So we're going to start off by getting the engine cover off, getting the scuttle tray off so we can get to the air filter. Then we're also going to drop the oil out the bottom, get the oil filter off and replace it with a new one. So before we get into things, make sure that you are subscribed, and if you haven't, tap that subscribe button down below. So we're going to start by getting all of the covers off, we're going to drop the oil out, and then we're going to change out the oil filter on the car. I do an oil and filter service on this car every 10,000 miles without fail. That's probably one of the main reasons why this car has achieved this mileage. On top of that, I'll do a fuel filter, a pollen filter, and clean the air filter about every 20,000 miles. And I always like to try and make sure that I get a decent brand of oil filter, and each time I replace all of the O-rings that I get in the pack. Not forgetting as well to put a new copper washer on the sump plug. Now when it comes down to the air filter, I've actually got a lifetime air filter on this car, which means that every time you can clean it and reuse it. So about every 20,000 miles I'll clean up inside of the airbox and I'll clean the filter. And as you can see, it's absolutely filthy, so it's well overdue a clean. All we need to do to clean it is brush the worst of it off, followed by rinsing it through with some hot and soapy water. Having a filter like this is actually more cost effective in the long run than buying and replacing it every 10,000 or 20,000 miles. And at the same time, I guess it's kind of nice to just have an aftermarket air filter, isn't it? So to me, it's a no-brainer. And looking at the water, it's absolutely filthy, so it does make a big difference. Now what I'm going to do is take it out of the bucket, let it dry, and we're going to move on to trying to fix the issue with the aux bar area. Okay, now we're waiting for the air filter to dry, we need to fix the squealing noise that's coming from the pulley area, and I think it's actually coming from the alternator itself. And what I think's happened is the actual clutch pulley for that alternator has failed, so let me show you what I mean. So in the past I've already done the belt, the tensioner and the pulley for it, so I think it's actually down to the clutch pulley itself on the alternator. To get to it then, I need to take the coolant bottle off, drop some of the coolant out, take the fan and shroud out so we have a bit of access, undo that tensioner, and then we should be able to swap it out. So what I'm going to do is start off by getting the viscous fan off, removing the fan shroud and getting everything off to try and figure out what's actually going on. The difficult thing is that with everything on and in the way, we can't actually see the front of the alternator or the pulley itself, so the only way around that is to get everything else off so we can take a look at it and try and figure out what's wrong with it. I usually find the easiest way to get these pipes off is to remove the metal clips completely, and then if they're a bit stubborn, give them a wiggle and get some spray on. I couldn't actually get to the bolt on the side of the coolant bolt to undo it, so I thought the best way to do it would be to undo the bolts on the headlight and slide it forward. Because the coolant bolt was quite firmly mounted onto the shroud, I thought the easiest way to remove it would be to undo the bottom bolt and remove it as one instead of running the risk of breaking it. Now with this out of the way, I noticed we had a bit of a problem. So I think I've run into my first issue. So down here, this is actually a 24mm bolt with a T50 in the middle of it, and usually there's like a special tool that I've got that you'd put on it to undo it, and it actually looks like it's completely different to that. So I was hoping to do it on the car, but what I might have to do is actually take it off the car to do it. So what I've actually noticed is that the alternator doesn't actually have a clutch pull on it, which means it's probably something internally with the alternator. I decided it would still be a good idea to take the alternator off to try and figure out what's actually wrong with it. So I disconnected the power feed to the engine bay, followed by removing the pulleys and undoing the connections on the back of it so I could remove it. Now they were done, all I needed to undo was these two 16mm bolts which hold it onto the engine block and making some room to pull it out. Right, now I've got that off, I can actually tell it's not got a clutch on it, which is a bit out of the ordinary because the part that I've got is actually meant to be the clutch pulley for this. So what I think it might be is actually down to the bearings inside of it. So what I did to figure out what it was as well last time, I sprayed a bit of fluid around it, and as soon as I sprayed fluid on here, it went away. Right, so that feels like a complete waste of time because I was actually hoping there'd be a clutch pulley on that we could take off, which is weird, like I say, because it came up with a part for my car and I was in belief that it would actually have a clutch pulley on it. So we've almost done that for nothing, but we do know what it is. It's actually the bearings inside of that alternator. So what I might do is find out what size they are and come back to that at a later date. So what we can do is we can either get a new alternator or we can put it back on the car and see how we get on with it. And you know what, on 300,000 miles, I think I'm going to put this back on the car for now and see how I get on with it, because I haven't got the bearings and I don't really feel like buying a new alternator for a car on this mileage. But for now we should be alright and we know what the problem is. So I'm going to chuck all this back together and then we'll put the oil in and the filter back on. Unfortunately, things don't always go to plan, but that's life. Now, before we put the air filter back in, we need to give it a quick spray with the air filter additive and we're good to go. Now everything's back together, all that's left to do is top it with oil. I usually stick with 530 in this car because it's what's recommended. Some people tell you to use a thicker oil on higher miles, but personally, I don't think it really matters. As long as you stay on top of servicing, you should be good. And of course, check the dipstick a few times just to make sure you're at the right level. Right, now that's all done, what I'm going to do tonight is going to make a list on a few of the things I've done in my ownership, what's actually gone wrong with it, what they've cost me, and a few of the overall costs of running this car for about 100,000 miles. So I'm going to get on with that tonight and I'll catch you in the morning. Okay, so I'm just on my way out to get some bits and I've run the numbers last night and I can't believe some of it. So fuel wise, in about 108,000 miles of ownership, I've spent 20,400 something pound in fuel, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous, like overall. And I've also worked out the parts on it and working out how much all the parts have cost. I've wrote all of it down. I'll have to pull over in a minute and read it out because I can't do both obviously, like, but off the top of my head it's about £4,000 in parts overall. Right, so let me go over the cost of everything that I've written down on paper and it'll make so much more sense to me waffling on about all these different things because the figures make more sense than I do. So one sec, I've got my paper here and right, let's start with the good stuff. So I've done about 100,000 miles in this car. I bought 193k, 108,000 miles travelled, 4 pairs of tyres, front £340, 6 rear tyres 510, and like I say, I've spent £20,400 in fuel alone, and that's on an average of say £85 a tank, and it does about 450 miles to a tank, which is about 63 litres, which does work out about right. So it's about a tank of fuel, about £80 of fuel a week, which is pretty much what I do, and like with mileage that all adds up pretty well. So the brake discs front and rear, I've only put one set on in my ownership and that's £250, and I've had about 3 sets of pads front and rear, £120. So over 100,000 miles servicing costs, because I'll be doing it myself, £1,300 all in. And every time I service it, I've done all in filter, £80 for that, and then every second time after that I've done the pollen filter and the fuel filter, which is another £40 on top of that. So about £1,300 all in on servicing. Most of it is mainly just wear and tear, suspension stuff underneath, but I could bore you to death with it all day. I've also completely overhauled the rear subframe, so if you want to take a look at that, I'll leave a link up there for you. So I'm not going to bore you to death with everything because that's a lot to take in, and looking at this list in general, it's quite long, but I'll cut to the short of it anyway. So parts and servicing alone, in 5 or 6 years of owning it, £4,522, and then all in inclusive of fuel, £24,922. That's not including road tax or insurance or anything like that, which isn't awful. And like I say, I've done all this stuff myself, so I've never really needed to pay the labour, bear that in mind. And I think it works out in just the parts alone about £60 to £80 a month you'd spend just in parts, and I paid £1,300 for this car as well, so you could always add that on the top of it. But yeah, like, certain things have gone wrong on it, of course. It's, you know, it's expected. So a couple of things that I should say have actually mechanically gone wrong technically on the engine is thermostat went on it. That was £85. And then I also had the rocker cover gasket leaking. That was £30. That's the only oil leak it's ever had, was a rocker cover gasket. And then a couple of injectors in it, about £80 there. And then, like I say, it's mainly just servicing. Mechanically, it's been pretty good. Coolant flange under the inlet manifold, coolant pipe, power steering hose. Engine's been absolutely solid, to be honest. Like I say, it's completely unopened. Same clutch, same turbo, same flywheel, same chain, same internal, same water pump. Nothing like that. Not an issue at all. So I don't know why people keep saying BMWs are unreliable. I think they're just probably neglected. This is a big hit now. Windscreens. I've had 4 windscreens in this car. Weirdly enough, every time I seem to put a windscreen in it, something happens to it. And now it's got another chip in it that I need to replace, funnily enough. So that's cost me about 650 quid all in, which is insane to me. The amount of money spent on windscreens in 5 years, you'd never believe it. I've spent an absolute fortune on this thing. So all in, I wouldn't say it's been too bad at all having a high mileage car. It's been pretty reliable. You just need to stay on top of your maintenance, do little bits here and there, but if you look after it, you service your oil filter, you shouldn't really have any major issues. And of course, bearing in mind, this isn't to do with anything like road tax or, you know, insurance. So it's cost me under £5 just in parts alone. Of course, if I'm doing the labour, it doesn't cost me anything. And then also fuel, that was a big hitter for me, like thinking I've spent 20 grand in a £1,300 car on fuel. I think that's crazy. But yeah, all in, I'd say this car, having it for 5 years, owes me like all in, adding everything up, under 30 grand, which I don't think is bad at all, really, considering it's just a runabout and doing it on high miles. I've always got this to try and get 300,000 miles out of it, and I finally got there in it. So I'm going to leave it here for now, and thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and maybe it's helped some of you out there. And I know it's not all gone to plan, but sometimes that's how it is. I just wanted to try and give you a realistic idea and what it's actually like. If you're new here as well, tap down below, hit subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on this. I hope it's helped some of you out, and it's a bit out of the ordinary maybe, but I thought it'd just be kind of interesting to share something a little bit different and try and give you an idea on what it's actually like owning a high mileage car, some of the costs you can actually incur doing it as well, because it's going to be completely random no matter what car it is anyway. And just to kind of prove in a way that don't believe what everyone says. Like, sometimes high mileage cars, it really doesn't matter. As long as you're looking after a car, then they usually look after you. So leave me some feedback if it's helped you out, if you like this video, or, you know, what sort of stuff you'd like me to be doing more. Or, of course, next time it'll be back to more usual sort of stuff. So don't forget to watch the next video. Stay tuned. I'll catch you next video. See you in a bit.